This event tonight is being co-sponsored by the Sentinel and Enterprise and Fitchburg State University. It continues our long-standing tradition to bring events like this to the community. We're located here at Kent Hall at Fitchburg State. We welcome all of those watching on FATV. We welcome you here. We welcome everybody here in the auditorium as we begin to listen to the candidates. Let me just explain the format tonight. We have a lot of candidates, a little different format. It's basically hearing what they have to say in an abbreviated form. I've also been encouraged by many in the audience to remind myself that there is a Red Sox game tonight. So, but the way they've been scoring runs, we'll probably get home by the 4th or 5th inning. It'll be 0-0, and we'll see what happens. Our format tonight, we'll start with the ward candidates who are seated here in the front. The panel will ask a question to one of the candidates. That candidate has 1 minute to respond to the question. After that, each of the candidates will have an opportunity up to a minute to rebut the question, to rebut the answer, to further enhance the question. So it's critical that you listen to the question. The one candidate will answer it, and then each of you then will have the opportunity to respond to that question. We have about 5 questions. We'll go through that, and at the end of the questioning period, each candidate will have time for a closing statement. After we finish with the ward councilors, we'll then switch to the councilor at large positions. We'll take a 5-minute break in between and go from there. But before we start, I just want to remind you to turn off your cell phones because we are broadcasting live from the auditorium here. I'd like to thank all of those other city officials and department heads who are joining us tonight. Thank you for coming. Again, a special thanks to FATV for the live broadcasting, and we appreciate that each year. Mike McCoskey on my staff and Caitlin Webster are handling the sound, and we thank them very much. Matt Bruin, Gil Duran from my staff for their help. And the 2 cameramen, Brian Wicke and Phil Sandy, taking a production class at FATV, and they're manning the cameras. And I want to thank them for being here tonight. So at this time, I would like to introduce our panelists. First, Charles St. Amand, the editor of the Sentinel and Enterprise. Charlie, thank you again once again. Dr. Paul Weiser, our Associate Vice President for Academic Affairs at Fitchburg State University, and Mallory Ann Perrin, the President of the Student Government Association here at Fitchburg State University. Before I turn it over to Charlie, seated in the front row here is Brett Abraham. He's a freshman here at Fitchburg State University. Everyone take a good look. Brett, raise your hand. Raise your clock. See the paddle? If you don't stop talking, he hits you with the paddle. No. As he raises the paddle up means you're minute up. If you're in between the sentence, finish the sentence, but please try to conclude at that point. If you finish before, you get extra points. But seriously, we'll try to watch the time, and it works pretty well, and we'll move it from there. So with that, I want to call on Charlie St. Amand to introduce our candidates for the first segment of tonight's debate. Charlie?
Thank you, President Antonucci, for all you and your folks are doing tonight here to make these debates a reality. I'd also like to thank FATV as well for bringing this debate to the folks at home. And I want to remind everyone that the Sentinel and Enterprise is also providing live coverage on our homepage at www.sentinelandenterprise.com. Our staffers are providing live tweeting of reporting, photos, and video. And we ask anyone who is watching to join the conversation on Twitter by using the hashtag FitchElex, E-L-E-X, FitchElex. I thank my fellow panelists for their participation. Of course, I thank the candidates for being here tonight, so let's introduce them. Fitchburg's ward candidates from our left to right are in Ward 1, Amy Green and Kelly Johnson. In Ward 2, Paul Boscheman and Patrick O'Halloran. In Ward 3, Nisha Belanger and Councilor Joel Caddy. And in Ward 4, Michael Kushmerek and Tricia Park. Welcome, candidates. The first candidate will be asked a question, and we will proceed from left to right through the rest of the candidates. We will reverse order from right to left for the closing statements. We did a random drawing and determined that the first question will go to Paul Boscheman.
And the first question will be asked by Charlie, and then we'll go to Patrick, Nisha, Joel, Michael, Tricia, Amy, and Kelly. Charlie?
Mr. Boschman, what is the most pressing issue in your ward, and what action will you take on it?
What's the most pressing issue in my ward, and what action will I take on it? Good question. Oh, sorry about that. I'm sorry about that. Kind of nervous. The most issue, there's 3 issues, really 4 issues to be quite frank with you. And I think the biggest issue is bringing pride back to the city and my ward. If you don't have pride, you can hire as many policemen as you want to hire, but it doesn't solve the problems. They want the lights on. They want to feel safe and secure, the elderly. They want their roads paved. If we don't have the money, how can we do it? They can't pull it off a tree. We can't, if we don't have the money to pave the roads and that. But if you believe and we have pride, I think things start to fall into place. You know, that's how I feel.
Okay, thank you. Start the rebuttal with Patrick.
I believe that the most pressing issue in Ward 2 is also the most pressing issue throughout the entire city, and that's public safety. Public safety has been a concern of mine. I ran back in 2011, and that was one of my main issues, public safety and fiscal accountability. They both go hand in hand. It's very simple. We all have to work together and look at the budget. City officials, all public elected officials, have one main priority, one main focus. They have to provide safety for the citizens, whether it's at the federal level, state level, or even here at the local level. And without that safety, people aren't going to feel, there's not going to be any pride. There's not going to be, I mean, we're going to have a percent. I work in Boston, and people that I know in Roxbury, Dorchester, and Mattapan come up to me, and they say, we live in a tough town.
Time. Nisha?
I can further extend Mr. O'Haron's public safety concern. I plan to bring in more community action with hands-on approach and facilitation of community and crime watch prevention and association groups. One of the biggest things while door knocking was people wanted to feel safer in their communities, but they didn't know how to form groups and establish the ideas in making those things happen. So I personally will volunteer to become that liaison between the police departments and the community to make sure our citizens feel safe.
Joel?
Thank you.
I'm going to agree with what her said, but I want to talk more immediate about my ward. The question was, what's the most concerning thing? It hasn't been advertised. A lot of people don't know it, but the Tin Bridge on River Street, the hard corner just before West Fitchburg, is going to be closed as of January 1st. The railroad is going to shut down that bridge. I was emailing Lenny Lasco, Chief Roy, today about it. The concern is a fire truck, any emergency vehicle. It's going to take twice as long, Kevin Roy did a time trial, twice as long to get an ambulance, fire truck, or a police cruiser to West Fitchburg. So I'm doing everything I can to stop that from happening, to possibly getting a throughway for emergency vehicles only, or having the railroad produce some funds so that we can house at least an ambulance in West Fitchburg to make people safe.
Michael?
I too think crime and public safety are among the top issues in Ward 4. I believe that we must find sustainable revenue streams to support incremental growth in our police force. But I think incremental is certainly key. And with that goes certainly a strong economic policy that can sustain increases in our current police force. I think we've made tremendous strides in the past 5 to 10 years in terms of crime and public safety. Now we've got to continue to capitalize on that growth and continue a positive attitude on crime prevention, but also look at other means of crime prevention through after-school programming, grassroots efforts, community relationships, neighborhood associations. I think we have some tremendous efforts that have already started, and we need to continue those relationships in the community.
Trish?
Public safety, definitely in Ward 4. Our elderly, our children, our citizens need to feel safe in our ward, which means more police officers. Streetlights are a big issue. We own them, let's turn them on. A lot of people come home, now that we're going to switch the clocks back, don't feel safe getting out of their car, going into their house. I'm one of them. And people ask, you know, where are we going to get the money to hire more police officers? Well, that's the question, economic growth. You know, we need to get more businesses here in Fitchburg to create some money that we can use to make our city safe. Definitely more police officers. Thank you.
Amy, back to the...
And in Ward 1, we've seen crime on the rise in the last few months. So again, public safety is on the minds of everyone. We need to solve that by generating the resources to get more police officers available for deployment. I agree that grassroots effort and community policing would be the way to start with that. I think that, as you can see, we've got a willing panel of people that are willing to help and volunteer and participate. I think we need to get those plans moving, an action plan, not just spinning wheels in mud, but let's get this stuff done. So by whatever means necessary, so that people feel safe again, that's our goal.
And the last response for this question, Kelly.
Ward 1 specifically, I'd like to talk about Water Street. As everyone drives down it, that's definitely a main road to get into Fitchburg, to get to businesses, to Main Street. So seeing the sewer separation project and seeing, you know, the road being torn up, I do hope to look forward to the state and how they will fix that and addressing that issue so we can let our residents know timetables on these plans. As well, of course, public safety. Ward 1 has a lot of great neighborhoods, so I feel that people would like to stand up and work together to make sure that their neighbors know who each other are and to really have that camaraderie to feel better so that when people move in, you can approach them and you can welcome them to the neighborhood, and our children will feel safer that way.
Thank you very much. Well, that's the first question. The question was responded by each of the candidates. Before moving on, I'd like to recognize in the audience Representative Steve DiNatale and former Mayor Dan Mylott. Welcome here this evening. Just to remind the candidates, let's give them a round of applause. Steve, Dan. Just remind you to pull the mic in front of you when it's your turn. We don't have enough for each of you, so share them, and the closer you are, the better off, and then we can hear it both here in the auditorium and at home. So I'll begin the second round. Dr. Paul Weiser will begin by asking Patrick O'Halloran the second question. Once he answers that question, then each of you will have the opportunity to respond. Dr. Weiser.
Thank you. The Fitchburg Police Union recently erected a billboard off Water Street that proclaims Fitchburg is the second most violent community in central Massachusetts and urges voters to elect candidates who will invest in hiring more police officers. What is your response to the billboard, and what message do you think it sends to both the residents of the city and visitors?
Well, first of all, the fact that the Fitchburg Police Department has to put up a billboard to indicate that they need more help is a big concern of mine. I support what they did, and I support the police officer 100%. There's currently 72 police officers that we have right now. There should be at least 91. At one point, there were 98. When we had 98 police officers, they were fielding approximately 39,000 calls. Now we have 72. That number's up to 51,000 calls. They need help. We need to get together as a community and help them. Without public safety, we really don't have much. We need to clean up the streets of Fitchburg. When that billboard's going to be up for a month. When the month's gone, the drug dealers, prostitutes, and addicts are still going to be downtown.
Okay, Nisha, response?
I believe it was the right for the police union to put that billboard up there to get community awareness out there that they do have issues with understaffing. However, I do also feel like, they could have and maybe should tap into already developed resources within Fitchburg. Specifically, I refer to Fitchburg Emergency Management Agency, who is there to supplement police officers and free up some of their time to respond to emergency calls while standing and protecting, blocking off roads. We, the agency, FEMA, are able to come in and offer kind of a all hands on deck and relief them so they're able to reply to other emergency calls. I believe that the police officers do need community support, and I am willing to do that with Crime Watch associations in Ward 3, as well as my brother being a police officer here in the city. I support him. I see what he goes through. I see how tired he is.
Time's up.
Thank you.
Good job. Joe?
Okay, this is a difficult question for me, given my past as a police officer. Maybe if I was still there, maybe if I was in a union meeting, maybe everyone upset how discouraging it is to be a policeman, to be out on the street, you don't have a backup, it's very dangerous. I don't know, but right now, I look around the room and I see a lot of people in this room that I work with to make the city a better place. And if someone talks about my city, I'll take my gloves off. I mean, I work too hard to change the image of this city. I wish that they didn't have to put that sign up there. I wish that, I'm not saying they're wrong. I know that they're just so discouraged that they didn't know what to do. But I'm going in a different direction these days. I want Fitchburg to come through this. Thank you.
Michael?
I applaud the efforts of the men and women in the police force who are in our communities every day. But that said, I'm thoroughly disappointed in the tactic of putting up a billboard. I think it's a scare tactic that negatively reinforces stereotypes in Fitchburg. I think, as Councilor Caddy has just said, we've come a long way in these past 5 years. I think we've shown our resilience in the community, and I think, while I agree that we need more resources for our police department and more officers on the street, that isn't the way that we go about getting more resources. I think it's working with the proper channels. I think it's working through your counselor and your local government to ensure that this happens. Things don't happen overnight, and we need to realize that. We'll continue to go a long way, and we'll continue to find more resources for the police department. But I think we need to stay positive. We need to focus on the progress that it has been made and will continue to be made. Thank you.
Tricia?
What I think of the billboard sign that was put up, it's facts. There's no way around it. They're facts. And people don't like it because it's posted on top of Midtown Beef. Yeah, it's alarming. And I sat in at a council meeting a couple months ago, and I heard one of the councilors say a couple years ago, they finagled where they could have money for more police officers, and it wasn't done. It wasn't done. And the money was there, and it was going to be for them, and it wasn't done. I'm part of a union also, delivering mail, and that's what a union rep does for their people. And obviously, they want help, and they need more police officers, and I agree with it. I agree with it, whether, it is what it is, and it was sorry that it had to be up there on a billboard, but facts are facts.
Amy?
Taking a bold stand and saying that was like salt in an open wound. Again, I applaud all the efforts and from the police force, but I think that the union went way out on a limb and sent the wrong message, especially to the parents and associates that were coming in for students from Fitchburg State University. Seeing that billboard, we live in this community. We know that crime is up. We know that we've got an issue on our hands, but to want to promote Fitchburg State University and the city of Fitchburg finally being able to work together to come in and see that billboard, I think was the wrong message. I think that there should have been some collaboration maybe between the union and City Hall before that even went to press, and that a statement like that was made. So I'd like to see us foster a better working relationship with the police union and city councils and or City Hall before another stunt like that is pulled.
Kelly?
My opinion on the billboard is, unfortunately, it's not pretty for our residents, however, or our visitors. However, it is truth. With discussing the budget and our police force, last fiscal year, we spent $560,000 on overtime, so I would like to look further into how we could reduce that and increase the police force with that budget. That would be something that the union would have to discuss with City Council. And as well, the Citizens on Patrol is a great resource that the Fitchburg Police has. You can go to the Fitchburg Police website and look it up for yourself. And this is where I stand. I want to promote this. I want to see residents do this. You know, if we have 20,000 residents in the city and the Citizens on Patrol, it asks for 4 hours per week. You know, if 100 people signed up for this, we have to talk about it day in and day out, remind people, remind them. And if we can get 100 people to give 4 hours a week, volunteer, it would be huge for our police.
Paul, for the last response?
Do I like it? No. Do we need policemen? Yes. But I want to go back to original statement I told you earlier about pride. Let's look at Lower Clegon. Back in the 90s, how it was back in the 90s, every other day, Daniel Street, Fairmont Street, Clement Street, every week, front page, you guys loved it, you sold papers. It was marvelous. We cleaned up Lower Clegon. We had pride and we cleaned it up. Look at us now. It's a community that's happy. A lot of crime has gone down. Yeah, we get small breaking into cars, but what community doesn't have small breaking into cars? And when you leave your doors unlocked, you're asking for an invitation. Go ahead, go in. Really, seriously. Our city, Lower Clegon, is marvelous. It's marvelous. If you go down there now, Plymouth Street, single-family homes, and it's clean. We're inviting crime because we don't clean up. You can have 100,000 cops on. If you're a mess, we give an attitude, we don't care. When we don't care, people say, we're going to set up shop here. We set up shop and we do what we have to do. Sorry.
That's okay. That's good. I don't want to stop you right in the middle of that sentence. Let's give the candidates a round of applause. Give them a little break here, all of them. Good job. Time for take a deep breath, relax a minute. For those watching at home, we're broadcasting live from Kent Recital Hall here at Fitchburg State University, courtesy of FATV. We hope that you're enjoying this debate. Following the City Council, ward candidates will have the Council at Large candidates. So stay tuned. If you go get some ice cream from the refrigerator, come back and watch this debate. You don't want to miss anything. So those in the auditorium, you're out of luck. There's no refreshments. So we'll begin with the next round of questioning. We're going to ask Mallory Ann Perrin, the president of the Student Government Association here at Fitchburg State University, to begin this section of questioning by asking Nisha Bollinger a question. Mallory, it's all yours.
Each year, the city seems to struggle to meet its net school spending requirements. Do you think we need to invest more in our public schools?
I absolutely believe.
Nisha, put the mic in front of you, please. Thank you.
Thank you. I absolutely believe that investment in our schools is the way to go. Our community is literally in the hands of our youth. Our future generations need to grow up with positive role models, positive images of the Fitchburg community. And the way to do that is to invest in the school systems so they can be brought the opportunities and programs to be able to do so. I currently, right now, work in the public school systems across 30 different communities with United Way Youth Venture. So I'm on the ground level with these young entrepreneurs who have big ideas and big plans, not only for their local communities, but global communities as well. Without funds of supporting programs like mine into these school systems, these kids would not have an outlet to be able to succeed and further pursue and have that support system in place where they can actually see themselves being positive social change makers. Thank you.
Joel?
I think any city councilor will tell you that Fitchburg has been struggling for the last several years to meet our net school spending. In spite of that, I think that the school system has brought up all their grades. that was in the paper a few weeks ago. I think the city's on the right path with our school system. I think the thing coming that's going to be a big discussion is going to be bringing in another school to take away from our what we bring in per student. I think that's going to have a big effect on the city if that happens. And I'd like to say that we should focus on our own school system. I think what we have is good, and I think we should make it better. Thank you.
Michael?
I think education is the foundation for the future of the city in so many ways. Our youth need to receive that solid education and be practically prepared to go on for a career, and hopefully they set themselves on a wonderful career path and decide to stay in Fitchburg or North Central Massachusetts and feed back in to the economic engine of North Central Massachusetts. But in many ways, we need to find ways to continue to invest in our education system, build collaborative partnerships with existing institutions and organizations, both with Fitchburg State University and Mount Wachusett Community Colleges as wonderful organizations in North Central Massachusetts, and partnering with the state and trying to seek grants that make Fitchburg public school systems competitive with school systems throughout the Commonwealth.
Tricia?
Love Fitchburg Public Schools. They're doing great. Crocker Level 1 school. Amazing. I have all 4 of my children went to Fitchburg Public Schools, and great job. Superintendent, great job. The new charter school that wants to come in, we can't let it happen. My daughter is a junior in high school. She's doing AP classes. Fitchburg High provides great opportunities. This new charter school that wants to come in, they don't have Title I. They don't have anything to the SPED program, anything. I think Andre Revenal and our tax money is doing a great job. The new principal at Longs, Joe, he's working on going to Level 1 too. I think Fitchburg schools are excellent, and I'm proud to send my children to them. Thank you.
Amy?
I think that our schools are the foundation of success. I agree that we need to put every effort and every dollar that we can into the education of our young children. We need to start even at pre-K and advance them right up through the high school and then have them continue on to college. How we go about doing that, it's a challenge. We're facing challenges, but we are a city that has struggled and has maintained through diversity. We're a city of bridging gaps. So I'd like to see us continue to bridge gaps. There's a lot of passion when it comes to the citizens of Fitchburg and the pride that they have in their alumni. So I think that we need organizations, we need people, we need volunteers, we need teachers, we need communities involved with the continue to raise our children.
Kelly?
Spend more in schools. This is absolutely something that would be on every parent's mind. For myself, I see the resources that are in Fitchburg. I seek out the resources. I have a 9-year-old, so we constantly are wondering what's going on, where can we be, how can we get involved, and then we show up to these things, and there are minimal children there. I think a good way to spend money on our schools is to inform our families of these resources and to get them more involved with the community. Most people that are born in Fitchburg are raised and end up having their own children in Fitchburg, so if they can take a sense of pride as soon as kindergarten, first, second, third, and really understand that Fitchburg is a good community to be brought up in and to feel safe in and to feel proud of, then absolutely we should be going ahead and letting the families know what we have to offer, so that way we can be a community again.
Paul?
I want to say congratulations to the teachers and the students of our city for doing a marvelous job on MCAS, and I also believe that if they keep it up, that our city would turn around. Myself, my daughter Emily went to Fitchburg Public Schools. My son Paul went to Fitchburg Public Schools. My son Eric went to Fitchburg Public Schools. I have no complaints. My only complaint is this. I like to see something different. Not all of us are going to college. Not every one of us are going to college, and we're going to go into the manufacturing world. And we can't compete. Your city can't compete with the kids out there. Not everybody's going to Monty Tech. Not everybody can get into Monty Tech. And we have to look at that. Every time I go to a meeting where there's a senator or a representative, those are the questions I ask. We can't compete. You can see the double-digit unemployment in the city of Fitchburg, and people are unemployed still for 3 or 4 years. That's how I feel, Pat.
Patrick, last response.
Does anyone here notice the common thread right now? It's about revenue and the lack thereof. We need to gain more revenue. The police force needs more officers. Teachers need more funding, okay? We can gain more revenue simply by cleaning up our streets, adding to the police force, increasing public safety, and providing incentives for businesses to come to Fitchburg. Then that way, we can take the tax burden off of the taxpayers and the residents, all of us here tonight. I don't see a really big problem or issue about that. It's pretty much common sense. Clean up the streets, help the police department, we get public safety back, okay? Businesses will want to come to Fitchburg. Set up shop there. Right now, if you walk down Main Street at nighttime, go down right now and walk. Really, are you going to feel safe? Because that's what a business person is going to think about.
Good.
Thank you.
Moving right along, Charlie Cinnamon, the editor of the Sentinel, will now ask Joel Caddy a question, followed by responses from each of the candidates. Charlie?
Counselor, as you know, Fitchburg has a dual tax rate in which commercial and industrial property owners pay a higher rate than residential property owners. Do you think Fitchburg should move toward a single tax rate? Why or why not?
I think that every year, the counselors are discussing how we're going to do this. This happened long before we got there. And if we were to have a even rate tomorrow, the taxes of the residents would go up. Politically, that's tough for every one of us. Personally, I pay taxes on 2 businesses and a house in Fitchburg. How I feel about it right now is every year, in my mind, every year we try to take a percentage, try to lower it and get it closer and closer. We can't do it overnight. It's going to have to come very, very slowly in order to do it. And every year when it comes to tax classification time, it's a struggle on raising taxes for us, our residents. Given the fact that a few years ago, our water bills and our sewer bills went up so high, it's always been a struggle. I just hope we're heading in the right direction. Thank you.
Michael?
In an ideal world, I think we need a singular rate. However, the reality is the residents of Fitchburg have been asked to bear quite a burden for years and decades now. So I think this change needs to come incrementally. It can't happen overnight. I think it would be damaging to bringing new residents in. But I think by moving incrementally, we can continue to bring, in good faith, to show businesses that we're receptive and we're trying to work with them and make it a more hospitable environment for them to do business in and flourish. So I think if we move incrementally and demonstrate to businesses that we're moving in that direction, hopefully we'll bring in more revenue through that way, and we can continue to move towards a singular rate in the future.
Tricia?
What businesses? You know, economic growth is what we need. Fitchburg needs businesses to come in and help the homeowner. I mean, I'm talking to my elderly constituents that can't afford the 2.5 tax increase. You know, we have to stop it. We have to stop the tax increase. We cannot bear it. We can't. We need economical growth. We need to bring it into Fitchburg. Don't know how yet. You know, we need to attract businesses to Fitchburg, and that will bring down the taxes for the homeowner. As far as a single single tax rate, that can't happen until we attract businesses. So, over time, yeah, but we need to get businesses in Fitchburg to help us homeowners because we can't afford it anymore. Thank you.
Amy?
Well, as a business owner and a property owner in Fitchburg, when it comes time to write that check, at times it is painful. I agree, though, you can't have a single tax rate unless there's businesses and large businesses to support that. We know for a fact that Central Massachusetts, has 30% of their businesses that employ less than 15 people. So, we need to find resources and the businesses that are going to be attracted to Fitchburg. There's some great areas of commercial space, but they need to be cleaned up. We need to, make them so that businesses want to come to Fitchburg. What's the incentive for that? I don't know. Maybe you enroll them in the TIF program, to get them involved, but not for, 20 years. I mean, for a little bit of a break, 3 to 5 years, give them a tax break, but then, they have to pay the same tax rate as everybody else. So I'm on board with bringing businesses in, but, dual tax is the way we have to go for now.
Paul? Excuse me, Kelly?
Hey.
I tried to jump over you, huh, Kelly? Yeah, woke Paul up.
Hasn't
See?
started yet, right?
That's it. Go ahead.
Okay, so when we're discussing businesses right now, we often discuss Main Street, of course, and people say as we're knocking on doors that they don't feel comfortable walking down Main Street, that it's not pretty walking down Main Street. As I walk down Main Street, I see multiple friends who actually have opened businesses, art studios, art galleries, consignment stores. I see the Twin Cities Community Development Corporation is now in plans to take BF Brown and turn it into art housing. So if you are an artist, you can potentially move into this housing. And that's going to be a wonderful thing to come from Fitchburg State as a film major, as a photography major, any of those things, and to move yourself down Main Street and to be able to open a business. That's going to generate business not only with Fitchburg, but people from surrounding communities are going to want to come in and see what we have to offer. And when it comes to tax rate, then we can start to discuss how to balance them.
Paul?
Am I in favor of dual tax rate? If I was a business owner, I say absolutely not. As a homeowner and a person that's going to retire, I don't know. I'm going to be on a fixed income like a lot of people in my ward. But I will tell you this, we talk about businesses, we talk about different things. If we're not qualified to do a job, you're not going to get businesses in here. And I got proof to prove that. Micron, down there on Lower Main Street, wrote a big article in the Sentinel and Enterprise approximately a year ago. And he said he would rather hire Fitchburg people, but he couldn't get anybody skilled to do the jobs down there. So he lost work. If we don't have skilled people, we can't get employed. And I'm talking about good jobs. I'm not talking about $6, $7 an hour, or $8 an hour. You don't see the light at the end of the tunnel when you're doing that, and you lose hope. And when you lose hope, you don't care. And when you don't care, everything falls apart. That's how I feel,
Patrick?
That's it.
I'm not in favor of a single tax rate. Plain and simple. Kelly brought up a good point about downtown Fitchburg. She brought up the Art Center. My wife has attended the Art Center at nighttime, along with my mother, my mother-in-law, and a few of their friends. When they've attended, they actually have to have police escorts out front, so the people that are going into the art studio feel safe. The same thing happens at the Starries. What does that tell us about a city? Really? Safety's not there. We have to do something about it. It's only going to get worse. And I want to do the best I can to try and make it better for everyone. Thank you.
Nisha?
All right, right now,
Nisha, grab the mic. There you go.
Fitchburg has approximately 153 vacant businesses and 163 commercial residentially zoned businesses. My plan is to support the mayor in her new proposal to do economic development in that position, where it would take property that is zoned single-use, single-level property to be easily rezoned into multi-use, multiple-story zoned property, thus increasing the tax revenue. And that's what I'd like to support and help the mayor follow through with her plans on economic development and make rezoning easier and make Fitchburg more attractive to business owners and make it easier for them to do business here in Fitchburg. Thank you.
Okay, we're now begin the last round of questioning. Following this round of questions and responses, we'll give each candidate the opportunity to make a closing statement. We'll begin this asking Dr. Paul Weiser, the Associate Vice President for Academic Affairs here at Fitchburg State University, to ask the first question to Michael Kuzmarek. Paul?
Thank you. A divided city council recently voted to cap the city's annual contribution to the Johnny Appleseed Visitor Center at $16,000 a year, which the association says may result in cutting the operating hours of the information center off of Route 2. Do you agree with this decision?
I do not. I believe that you know, our infrastructure system is part of the gateway to our community. We need to have you know, perception is very important to us, and in many ways, you know, when we drive around our city, you know, unfortunately our infrastructure system is often the butt of many jokes, but I think the visitor center provides us an opportunity to make a first impression, and I believe that you know, as new businesses come in, particularly new resorts, I think it gives us an opportunity to earmark money specifically for that purpose of keeping it open and funding it. So I think we have several options to be able to fund it and keep it going. Thank you.
Tricia?
Well, I believe that if the decision was made that that's how much money we can afford, then that's, you know, what goes to it. If you know, to keep it alive, yeah, it's great for people, visitors to come in and see the area, but you know, if they come to Fitchburg, and I think that the city council was wise to make that decision. That's how I feel. Thank you.
Okay, Amy?
I support the decision. I think $16,000 as a portion of what Fitchburg pays is plenty for the visitor center. I'd like to know what, you know, what Leominster pays, what Gardner pays, what Westminster pays. I mean, we all should take a piece of the pie and divide it accordingly. So, and I know that there's lots of people who would love to volunteer at the Johnny Appleseed Visitor Center. So let's get people there during the hours where it could be mostly utilized and have the volunteers take on that position. So I think that $16,000 is plenty to fund that and to keep it running and to keep it sustained for years to come at that amount.
Kelly?
I was at the meeting where they were discussing this, and they did discuss Leominster budget and Westminster budget. I see the Johnny Appleseed magazine come out twice a year. It's a wonderful resource, and they do promote Fitchburg quite a lot, and I appreciate that, and our residents appreciate that, and our businesses who are part of these promotions really appreciate that. The $16,000, you know, if we keep it that way for now and then see how Great Wolf Resort does for us, then this can be a discussion next year in the budget and the following year after that. It's not a set in stone price, but for now, I believe $16,000. Being unsure of what Great Wolf Resort is going to bring in, then that's what we had to do. We have to make tough decisions. Again, as Amy said, it's volunteer opportunities. I'm huge into volunteer, but we don't talk about it enough. People don't know that they can volunteer and that it makes a difference for our business owners.
Paul?
I really don't know too much about it, but if we're getting a return on our money, then I say stay with it. If it's promoting different businesses and helping different businesses to survive, why not give the $16,000 and you can make money? We got a new water park going up there in West Fitchburg. They're going to spend millions of dollars. Don't you think a lot of people are coming from Boston area out there to use that park? I think so. I think they're going to want to come out here. We got some good things coming. Why give away something when we can capitalize on something that's going to be good? Like Paul Boishman running for public office, you know?
Patrick?
I agree with the decision to spend the $16,000. As anything, as any investment, you have to take into consideration what the risks are going to be involved, and if there's going to be a return in the end, then that's the opportunity, is what we're going to have to do. Thank you.
Nietzsche?
Okay, I think looking at a strategic plan that is 3, 5, 10, 20 years out, and looking at the revenue created from hotel tax and the commuter station taxes, which are going into Ward 3, which is a valuable asset, I think re-looking at that 16,000 and potentially adding to it out of those revenues that are created to produce more of a welcoming environment in that gateway into Fitchburg that people want to see, and they want to be greeted by friendly volunteers who take a lot of pride in working at that station. So again, I'd like to see a strategic plan mapped out in the future of what it's going to look like and how we can gain revenue and turn that back into our community in the same time.
Joel?
The potential for Great Wolf with room tax is $1 million. The city of Fitchburg was paying 25% of our hotel tax. That could have meant if we didn't change this, that could have meant $200,000 was going to the Johnny Appleseed Center. During our discussions, we found out that Leominster was paying 16%, Fitchburg was paying 25%. Last year, Fitchburg paid more than Leominster did. When the Johnny Appleseed Center was created, they went to all the communities in this area, and the only communities that came forward was Fitchburg, Leominster, and Westminster. The other communities opted out. For years, we've been paying more than our neighboring city, and the other communities in the area have been paying nothing. The point was, solicit all the cities and towns in this area to pay, and they won't have to cut their services. But Fitchburg shouldn't be paying the lion's share. Thank you.
Okay. Okay, you've heard the responses to the questions. We thank the panelists for the great job that you've done on the 5 questions. Take a little break now while we listen to the closing statements. Following the closing statements, take a brief break and get the councilor-at-large candidates up front. We'll begin with Kelly Johnson for her closing statement. Remember, hold to the 1 minute for each statement. Kelly?
So why I'm running for ward council, I was actually approached at an event this past summer by a current counselor who said, "What ward do you live in?" And I said 1, and she said, "Well, your current counselor is not running, and I feel that you'd be great at this position." I volunteer all the time. I work part-time. I drop my son off at school in the morning. I have a few hours in the morning, and then I work in Fitchburg from 11:30 to 3:30, Monday through Friday. I have the time to go to the offices. I want to go in. I want to see what they're doing and ask questions and learn and cooperate. I don't want to argue. I don't want to cause bad blood. I feel that, really building a relationship between the city council, between the school council, between the departments is going to cause budget eases and to talk to my neighbors about what's going on. I'm ready to inform them every day.
Time. Amy? Amy Green.
There's no doubt that the people that are sitting on this panel and the people that are in the audience care about Fitchburg. I think we can all agree that we want to take it one step further, and we want to be the change that happens. There's some tough decisions ahead of us, and we've got to come at that with a sensible eye. We've got to come at it with a business point of view. City of Fitchburg is a business, and we need to run it as a business, and you need to look at sustaining positions that are already in place and having the budget to sustain that for years to come. It's great that we have all these ideas and grandiose proposals, but you need financing to back that, and you need everybody on board with that. So again, I want to be the neighbor that works with you and for you in this community to make it better.
Kelly and Amy were Ward 1 candidates. Moving on to Ward 4, we'll begin with Tricia Park.
The reason I'm running for city council, I've invested a lot of years in Fitchburg with my children. I work in Fitchburg. I deliver mail to my ward 6 days a week, 10 hours a day. I'm walking my ward. I love my ward. I love the people in my ward. Every day I talk to them, and I figured, you know, who's better not? I'm in it 6 days a week, on foot, seeing things maybe I shouldn't see, hearing things I shouldn't hear, but talking with my ward members. And after years of, you know, being a mother and watching the children grow up, instead of, you know, complaining about what's not getting done, I want to be a part of making decisions of what's going to get done. And, you know, being a part of the community, making it better. I love my ward. I don't have to live there. I choose to live there. And I want to make it a better place and be the strong voice that our ward needs to have us heard. Thank you.
All right, Ward 4 candidate, Michael Kuzmarek.
I think tonight we've heard a lot of different issues in Fitchburg, and we know that there are plenty of issues for us to talk about. I think crime, economics, and infrastructure are among these issues. For me, I think sometimes in Fitchburg we're our own biggest critics. We speak most negatively about our own city, and I think it's time to change the rhetoric, and I think it's time for us to change the way we talk about our city and look at our city. I think we need to focus on the positive. There are a lot of amazing things happening in the city, and there's wonderful people who are fighting for its benefit day in and day out. And I think we need to applaud their efforts, and we need to work side by side to find collaborative relationships that we can continue to build with the community and external constituents to work with to improve our city from within and from the outside in. I think we need to continue to build relationships, work together, and together I think we'll have a stronger Fitchburg. Thank you.
Thanks, Mike. Moving on to Ward 3, Joel Caddy.
I really enjoy being a city councilor. I like helping people. I give out my cell phone. Everybody has my cell phone. If you need help, call me. I'm going to help you. What I see myself being involved with in the next few years, I'm on the board at the Senior Center, the Historical Society, Pride. I want to see Fitchburg Main Street grow. I want to see it safer. By safe, I don't mean just police officers, but I do mean police officers. What I mean is lighting. I mean raised crosswalks in narrower so it's friendly for people to cross the street. Turn the lights on. Start a nucleus. Bring businesses in. Don't talk about it, but bring businesses in. And for the people of Fitchburg, shop in Fitchburg. It's important. And when we're done with Main Street, let's start working out west, because now we got Great Wolf, we have the train station, we have Dan Nygrosh with mill number 3. Let's start bringing businesses into the city. It's the only way we're going to move forward. Bring the college to Main Street. Thank you.
And Ward 3 candidate, Nisha Bollinger.
Thank you. I'm running simply because I care and I'm passionate about the community. I have the same concerns everybody else does. I live here, and my children go to school here. I feel that you need someone who is actively involved in the community and getting things done and putting their money where their mouth is, so to speak. While door knocking, one of the things that people said is they wanted their counselor to be approachable and fair. And I believe it's time for that. I believe that we need a fresh face. We need a new perspective. We need new ideas. We need somebody who can invest the time into the community. I have plenty of time, so that's why I'm running. So remember, when you go to vote, vote for somebody who's committed to community and dedicated to progress. Thank you.
Thank you. Moving on to Ward 2, Patrick O'Halloran.
Thank you. I'm running for Ward 2 City Council because I care about my city. I care about my family and my ward. Back in 2011, I ran. This time, I'm running again also. All the doors I knocked on, the majority of the people there feel unsafe. They want their lights turned back on. They're concerned about their taxes. Many people are living on fixed incomes. When their taxes go up, you're taking money out of their wallets, food off their table. It's that simple. I'm running on public safety and fiscal accountability. I want to do the best that I can for the residents in Ward 2. And I promise to always listen to them and be their voice and be the best representative that I can be for them. Thank you.
And Ward 2 candidate Paul Boschman. Paul?
Yeah, my name's Paul, and I'm running for Ward 2, too. But as I sat here and listened to everybody talk, I agree, we make the city look like we're really bad apples. We had 2 major crimes in the city. Nothing that we could have done with 100,000 policemen. If people want to sell drugs, they're going to sell drugs, and we're going to have crime with drugs. And, you know, you can have Mr. DeMora up there hire 100,000 cops. We can't be everywhere every moment of the time. We have to believe in our city again. We have to have pride. You can see there was no pride. It's unbelievable. Below here, you drive down the major arteries, and there's litter everywhere. How does it feel? I mean, I drove down, and my wife had to encourage me. Why don't you do something? You're driving down a major artery, and it's filthy. Filthy. Our city's filthy. And we invite crime. When people see that, we say, come to Fitchburg, because we just don't care. Our city's filthy. Thank you.
Thank you. Let's give the candidates a round of applause. Good job, everybody. Nice job, and we held to the timeline. It was perfect. So I thank each of you for your time, your attention. I wish you the very best in the November 5th election. To those at home and those in the audience, don't forget to vote. It's a week from tomorrow, November 5th. Remember, the choice you make is the choice for the future of Fitchburg. Tomorrow morning, read the Sentinel Enterprise and get a recap of what's happening tonight. Look at their website and follow that on the website. We're going to take a 5-minute break. We're going to come back. We'll be broadcasting again on FATV. And those in the audience, we encourage you to stay, and we'll have the at-large candidates. We'd like to welcome everybody back to Kent Recital Hall here at Fitchburg State University for a continuation of a debate between the candidates for the Fitchburg City Council to be voted on in the municipal election on Tuesday, November 5th. This segment of the debate will deal with the at-large candidates. We have 8 of the candidates here this evening. There are 5 spots open on the ballot. I would now ask our chief panelist, Charles St. Onge, the editor of the Fitchburg Sentinel Enterprise, to introduce the candidates, and then we'll be questioning them after. We have our other 2 panelists, Paul Weiser, the Associate Vice President here at Fitchburg State University. He is going to be a dean at some point also. And Mallory Ann Perron, the President of the Student Government Association. Turn it back to Charlie for the introduction of the candidates.
Thank you. Chief panelist, I got a promotion.
You like that, huh?
I'm very happy
Not
about
bad.
that. Tell my boss. Thank you, President Antonucci. We're now joined by the 8 candidates for 5 at-large seats on the Fitchburg City Council. We have seated them in random order. From left to right, they are incumbent at-large Councilor Stephen Hay, incumbent Ward 1 Councilor and at-large candidate David Clark, incumbent at-large Councilor Marcus DiNatale, at-large candidate Kevin Lynch, incumbent at-large Councilor Jeffrey Bean, incumbent at-large Councilor Dean Tran, incumbent at-large Councilor Rosemary Reynolds, and incumbent Ward 5 Councilor and now at-large candidate Nicholas Carbone. We will start at the left with Councilor Hay and move from there for the questions.
Let me remind you to watch the timer in the front. You can all look at it now, and it's a 1. It will give you 1 minute. He'll hold up a paddle at the end of the minute, and we'll stop the answer at that point. So let's begin having Charlie asking Stephen Hay the first question, and then each of you after that will have up to a minute to respond. Charlie?
Councilor, the city faces mammoth long-term post-employment benefits and pension liabilities, which threaten the economic viability of the city. How do you propose we meet this need?
First, Charlie, I am delighted that the mayor recently has stated that she would like to start funding the OPEB. I started 4 or 5 years ago talking about this issue because it is something that is going to crush this city in the long run if we don't address it. The city council a year and a half ago passed a resolution that I put forward asking the mayor to fund it in the budget as an actual line item. I think that would be the best thing for us to do, is each year when the mayor sits down and the mayor puts together the budget, that the mayor allocate a specific amount, a minimum specific amount, to put towards those pension benefits. If we don't, we're going to be in real trouble down the road. We also need to consider that when we consider hiring more employees for the city of Fitchburg. Every time you hire somebody who has benefits and a pension, that cost escalates, and we need to make sure that we outsource all of the employment that we can. Thank you.
Dave Clark.
Not many people had heard about OPEB, but we're all going to hear about it in the upcoming years. We have just started as a council to really start talking about it. And we're not alone in this. Many other cities and towns across Massachusetts are in the same boat. And we now realize that we have to do something about it. Even if it's taking baby steps, we've got to start by doing something. We've mentioned a little bit about the motel tax, taking that money and just throwing it in the kitty towards OPEB. But OPEB is something that people are going to hear about in the next year. And know that we're on it, know that we're looking at it, know that there are other folks in the same boat. Thank you.
Marcus DiNatale.
I put a petition in a couple of weeks ago to start addressing OPEB to the tune of $1 million a year, and that is the room tax revenue above and beyond what we have to allocate to Johnny Appleseed and Civic Days that would be applied to this expense. That's only a quarter of the problem. You know, I hear everybody talk about how OPEB is all of a sudden something that's come about. This has been known for quite a long time. And quite frankly, I was the first to mention it a few years ago. And since 2008, we have reduced payroll by 60 employees, and the mayor has reinstituted more than 50% of that payroll back. When you have a $270 million unfunded liability, you don't add more people, you don't give pay raises. The council, except for me, voted for a 14.5% pay raise for one department employee. 14.5%. Do we have an unfunded liability problem or do we not? I put a petition in to change our legal services to private. Voted down 10-1. Leominster does it.
Time.
So who are we kidding here?
Kevin Lynch.
Like the candidates before me mentioned that, you know, pension liability is a reality for every city and town in the state, and it's a widespread problem. I agree with Marcus DiNatale in terms of being more conservative, and I wouldn't agree with the pay raises that were, you know, handed out to make the, you know, pension debt more higher, and I agree that it needs to be dealt with. And I actually really like the idea that Marcus just mentioned in terms of, you know, making a commitment, at least, you know, the 25% of, you know, being the $1 million from the hotel revenue that's, you know, about to be a reality, and to use that to start addressing it.
Jeff Bean.
Thank you. It is a big problem. It's not something we're going to address in 1 year or something like that, but it has to be a plan to deal with it. And I think, as Councilor Hay said, you know, putting together a fund and funding it each and every year, a gradual amount until we get to a point, is really the only way we're going to do it. I also support Councilor DiNatale's idea of taking some of that money from Great Wolf and using it towards our unfunded liability. But we have to begin someplace. We can no longer just keep talking about it. It has to start funding it and start putting some money there, because we have all these other needs and all these other priorities we're talking about. And we can't be saying we're going to hire more policemen, we're going to be doing this and that, plus doing the OPED. I mean, we have to have a financial plan, a long-term financial plan to deal with all these issues and start putting it in place. As a former mayor, I know how to do that. I've done that. But I'm sitting here as a council saying that I know the plans have to be in place so we can support that.
Dean Tran.
Thank you. With the city manager, Mr. O'Brien, and I will quote him. He said, short-term knee-jerk, make it go away, crisis-to-crisis 6-month views and practices are not only damn foolish, they are an express to Detroitville, referencing the bankrupt Detroit. I will be direct with your question. Every year we get free cash certified. We cannot use it to pay for recurring expenses. Free cash should be used to pay for one-time expenses. We should also look at contributing to the reserve fund, which we call the stabilization fund, and we should also look at allocating some to the OPEB trust fund to pre-fund the city's health insurance liability. That is the directions that we should take. All elected officials should look at that direction, and that's the only way that we can solve the problem with OPEB. Thank you.
Rosemary Reynolds.
OPEB sounds ominous. It's other post-employment benefits other than pensions. It's health care. It's how are we going to pay for the rising cost of health. Obviously, we have this great boon of $1 million in room tax money coming to Fitchburg, and we could grab that and put it away. We're studying it. The mayor's studying. All the mayors are studying it. The whole country's studying it. We fortunately will have a great decrease in monies that we have to pay for loans in 2019. That's a potential source. We're looking to increase our income. It's a problem which is also an opportunity to work together. We cannot do this alone. We have to work together. This city, all cities, our state. Thank you.
Nicholas Caboni.
Like everyone said, I think we need to dedicate funds, whether that's from the room tax or whatnot. Second, we need to fund a trust. The trust is already in place. We already have a line item. We need to continue to fund that and continue to have the conversation about it. And lastly, fortunately, we have a great finance team working on it. Some of our counselors are part of it. We have great members on the staff at City Hall. And finally, to Councilor Dina Tully's point regarding the pay raises, I have to agree in a sense that maybe next year we look at banning pay raises across the board, but this is after the budget, and I didn't want to look at it now. And I don't think a lot of the city councilors were interested in doing this now.
Okay, we'll begin a second round of questioning by having Dr. Paul Weiser ask David Clark a question, and then we'll follow that by responses from each candidate. Dr. Weiser.
Thank you. Councilor, we asked the ward candidates about their reaction to the billboard erected by the police off Water Street proclaiming Fitchburg to be the second most violent community in central Massachusetts. All of them spoke of the need for more police officers. So my question to you is, what is the right number of police officers for the city, and how do you pay for it to get to that goal?
Well, first of all, about the police in general. I have had a great working relationship with the police over the last few years, and I can name 20 of the cops that have helped us so much in the neighborhoods. And I was disappointed when I saw the billboard for police. The right number? I remember when President Clinton was in office, and he had a federal program in which our number of police officers went up to 92. I would love to see, 91 or 92 officers in the city of Fitchburg. When I first became a counselor, I found it hard to believe that there was only one cop to each car. I remember when I was a kid, there were always two in a car. Or when you watch Car 54 or something like that, Tootie and Muldoon, there was two in there. So 91 would be my number. How you get there, I don't know how you get there.
Time, Marcus?
2011, the mayor, with the backing of the majority of the council, funded $350,000 to the library. When the public was clamoring for public safety and when the police officers were clamoring for more officers. 2011, in 2012, in 2013, $50,000 was allocated to the Coolidge Park pool when we already have a pool. Most cities and towns don't. Police were ignored. The police have been ignored for the last 6 years. Of those 60 people that were cut in 2009 and over half reinstituted, not one was a cop. So that's the priority that the administration has placed. It's easy to find money to pay for jobs. It's harder to sustain them. I have put forth cuts every year in the budget of over $1 million that have been ignored by the rest of the city council. There is money in the budget to hire them and to sustain them. But as I said, when you tell the officers we don't have money for you, but we have money for the library, and we have money for this and money for that, what do you think they're going to do? Their anger is legitimate.
Kevin?
In reference to the billboard, it was kind of confusing when I first read it into the paper because it just seems like there's a lot of miscommunication amongst the police, the city council, the mayor. You hear one thing from the mayor and the chief of police stating that violence is down, that crime is down. I've been to the police meetings and the same thing is relayed, and then to see the billboard was kind of disappointing. But I do believe that, we need more police. I would like to, in the past, we have had more police, and we've had just as much crime, and possibly even more. I would like to see, a lot of discussion and more, in terms of the city contract with the police department to put new police on certain shifts. I mean, it's a public safety need. We can't put everybody on first shift. We got to, in order to pay for these extra police, there's overtime, there's a 13th paid holiday to both the Fitchburg Police Department and the Fitchburg Fire Department that, we got to make these cuts. They're very unpopular and they'll get you a lot of enemies, but, that's what you need to do. If you want more police, you got to pay for them.
Jeff Bean?
Thank you. Paul, you said, what is the right number? And I don't think anybody can pick a number, but I can tell you it's more than we have today. And how do we get to that place is, you really got to look at, as I say, look at the overtime account. I mean, I've been through this. I've seen the city go through, high crime and low crime. And when we went through it before, it was, look at cutting the overtime by putting more police officers on the street by using that overtime money, using community policing, getting police in the neighborhoods so they know the people there, so that the officer knows who's around, having walking patrols, and having community organizations. I mean, years ago, there used to be 5 or 6 different community organizations. One on Claiborne, one on Elm Street, one on Water Street, and those folks worked closely with the police department to bring crime down. So is there a magic number to for police officers? No. But the magic is bringing everybody together to work together to lower crime, and I think it takes a whole community to do that, not just one police officer.
Dean?
Thank you. Statistics don't lie. Total crime increased by 23% from 2008 to 2012. In the same time frame, we lost 16 patrol officers. There's no question that we need more patrol officers on the street. What is the right number? To me, if you ask me, I would tell you at least bring back those 16 patrol officers. Those are very, very important patrol officers we need. We need them on the streets. How do we pay for the additional patrol officers? Well, economic growth. We have a plan right now that we're working with the mayor, and it's taken off because of a proposal that I made a few weeks ago, and that is to hire an economic development person to drive what we need in the city, and that is to bring in more businesses, increase the commercial base, and that will, if you have a financial health, a good financial health, everything will fall into place. Thank
Rosemary?
you.
I'll tell you, my first reaction to the billboard was, wow, good for them. I think they're doing their job. They're doing everything in the world to tell us we need help. We're strained. Those men, those policemen came to the city council. I was very moved by their approach. They were gentlemanly. They gave facts. They're overstrained. They're our backbone. They're our first responders. Give them more men. Do you all recall when, the hospitals began to strain nurses and everybody goes till their back breaks? Well, this is the same situation. We need these people. It's our first credit line.
Nick?
I don't want to take a stab at the union or anything like that, but I gotta say, when I drove by it the first day it was out, my first thought was no kidding. And I'm guessing Worcester was number 1, Leominster was number 3, Gardner maybe number 4. It went by population. No kidding, we're cities. But I mean, to answer your question, I think there's a bigger motive here, and that's kind of the community piece. And I've had conversations with the chief as well as with the union, and we need to do more. We need to do more as a community. Maybe that's with the DPW. Maybe that's with the individuals getting involved in community engagement. But, everything needs to come together. We need to clean up the city one part at a time. Thank you.
Steve?
Thank you. Number of policemen. Since I've been on the city council, the city has never funded the number of policemen that the city charter requires. Maybe that's an unrealistic number. Having thought that, a few years ago, I proposed that the city council change the numbers in the charter so that we could get realistic numbers and maybe attain those and keep them. That didn't fly because people are worried that every time there's a financial crisis, where's the mayor going to go? The mayor's going to turn to the public safety departments and cut those. I think that's a mistake. I think we need to sustain the numbers, keep the police out there, have a bigger presence. Perception is reality. If people don't believe they're safe, then they aren't safe. And while the mayor and the chief talk about technology and advancements and that you can do more with less, and I agree with that in many ways, and they're doing many good things about it, we need more policemen on the streets in the neighborhoods so that our residents can feel safe. Thank you.
And begin the next questioning. Marilee M. Perrin, the SGA president, will begin this section by asking the first question to Marcus DiNatale, followed by, again, responses from each of you. Marilee, you're on.
A new kindergarten through 5th grade charter school is being proposed within the city. School officials have voiced concern about the financial impact the proposed charter school would have on the existing public schools. What is your opinion on the current proposal in charter schools in general?
I am against the charter school proposal, and it's quite simple. Financially, it does not make sense for the students of Fitchburg Public Schools. There's one factor that hasn't been discussed either, is the transportation costs. It would cost the city of Fitchburg almost $250,000 more a year to bus this additional school without any reimbursement. People always say to me, we need to put more money into the public school system. I like to ask the question, how's the money we're already getting being used? And before we start giving more school choice, we should start looking at what are we not doing within our own school system. We're not perfect. Things are getting better by and large, but there are still a lot of schools who have many challenges. What I like to look at when I was on the school committee is, how is the money being allocated from school to school? Should it be based on test scores? If there are schools that are doing well, maybe some of the money needs to be siphoned from the well-to-do schools over to the schools that are underperforming to try to tackle needs that they're deficient in. So a charter school would take that right off the table.
Kevin?
Basically, earlier the conversation, was had with the ward councilors in reference to the schools, and I would just like to, congratulate the teachers on the success that they've made within the Fitchburg public school system, and the higher marks that the school system has received. I would agree with Marcus again in terms of, there's a charter school being built on the Rotary, and let that charter school work, and let's focus on the schools that we have at present, the public schools and such, and that's it.
Okay, Jeff?
Thank you. The proposed charter school for the kindergarten of 5th grade, what they were offering, we already offer in the Fitchburg public school systems. We heard about Crocker School. It's a level 1 school. We're very proud of that. They offer innovative programs. They offer the things that our children need to be able to grow and to become educated. So my feeling is it doesn't offer anything we don't offer today to our kids. If it was offering something different, then maybe take a look at it, but it doesn't. Plus, it takes away from our schools. Our schools have done very well. We've seen increases in our testing scores. We've seen increases in the levels. We had 3 schools go 1 level up last year. We're on a move upwards. Why would we stop now? And by taking money, by putting money from our program to our charter school, it's going to stop that growth from happening. We're on the right path. Why change our ways now? I think I want to congratulate the school committee and the superintendent for the wonderful job they're doing, for the 3 schools that moved up a notch, and hopefully we'll see more of that.
Dean?
Thank you. I graduated from the public school system, and look at how well I turned out. I have a beautiful daughter who attends public high school. I have another beautiful daughter who attends a public middle school, and I pay full tuition for my youngest daughter, who attends a public preschool. I believe strongly in investing in public schools. I believe in our school system, but that doesn't mean that I don't support charter and private schools. I firmly believe in a child having the option to acquire the best education, no matter where it is. We have to stop talking about money. We have to stop talking about teachers. And we have to stop talking about where the schools are in terms of buildings. We should be focusing on the children and the kind of education that we can provide for the children. Thank you.
Rosemary?
I think we have to talk about money. I think we have to talk about teachers. I think we have to talk about where the school is. I think this is an inopportune time to let some of our resources go off into the beginnings of something that we're already providing. And Fitchburg is experiencing the fruit of some marvelous leadership, educational leadership. It takes years, and we're there. This is not the time for this school to start. Thank you.
Nick?
I've been working with the Fitchburg Public Schools First Group, and along with Councilor Reynolds, and I think biggest point we've kind of heard over the past few weeks is that this is an insult to taxpayers. Taxpayers who may or may not want to fund Fitchburg Public Schools want to at least see Fitchburg Public Schools operate at the best of their ability. And I think that's the biggest point to take out of this. I mean, I went to Fitchburg Public Schools as well as many people on the council. And, you know, I think we're all, you know, doing okay for ourselves. And I think, you know, it's kind of a good point to, you know where your money is going and know what your money is being used for.
Steve?
Thank you. Education is a cornerstone of our community, and we owe every child the opportunity to get the best education available to them. I don't believe that charter schools are the way that we should go about it. I believe our public school system is providing a good education for our children. I believe the charter school that is proposed is looking to supply something that we already provide, but will drain resources and finances from us for us to do our job that way. I think that schools and education, we have 3 things facing us that are a dilemma. We have charter schools, we have net school spending, which is a formula that is disadvantaged to cities like Fitchburg, and we have school choice, which is a disadvantage to cities like Fitchburg. We need to sit down with the school department and the school committee members and the administrators and come up with a plan that works for Fitchburg, irregardless of all those things that the state puts on us. Thank you.
Last response from Dave.
Thank you, Mr. President. And, you know, charter schools, my daughter went to a charter school for a short time. And I think to have a choice is a great thing, to have a choice in your education. But right now, things are going pretty well in the school system. We get continued improvement in our scores. We get level improvement at Rheingold, and I was the other day at McKay, and their principal was so happy that they've gotten down to a level 2, and they're not ready to stop. They're going to keep going until they hit a level 1 at McKay School, and I'm sure that they're going to do that. Recently, I just was at a signing. President Antonucci and Superintendent Ravenel having a signing here in this building about the honors program and the collaborative that they're having between the university and the city. It's a wonderful thing. We had great kids that day, and this honors program has blasted off. It's a great thing. Thank you.
Time. I didn't stop him because he was saying such nice things about the university. So I let the time go 10 seconds. So thank you, David. So I saw people looking at the paddle. When you talk about us, the #1 state university, what am I going to stop him, right? So thank you. This is going real well again to our viewers at home. We hope you're enjoying this debate. We're at the segment of the program that deals with the Council at Large candidates. We're going to end up with 2 more sections of questioning, followed by a closing statement by each of them. So we'll begin this round by asking Charlie to ask Kevin Lynch the 4th question, followed by responses from each candidate.
Mr. Lynch, City Hall sits vacant and unsafe for occupancy. Do you believe the city should make the necessary repairs to the historic City Hall so it can house municipal offices once again, or should those offices be moved permanently to another location?
City Hall on Main Street, if you drive by and, take a look, it has some just, I don't know how to say, just awesome architecture. And I would really like to see, it has a lot of history, and I would really like to see the building, be gutted out and, talking from a construction standpoint and just rebuilt floor by floor. I know inside there's multi-level floors, half floors that are, it just doesn't work that great. And, I understand that there's a roof structural problem, and I believe that problem could be fixed. There's adequate parking. City Hall, it's in a central location to the city. I would like to see, City Hall remain, and, if in fact, a plan could be put forth in order to, accommodate the offices that are needed and the handicap accessibility and, all those issues that have been issues in the past, if those can be fixed. It's really a conversation that needs to be really discussed at length rather than, a quick answer.
Jeff?
Thank you. I probably spent more time in that building than anybody here. I was housing there for 10 years, and it was always a project going on there. The City Hall was an old building. There's always something happening, whether it was the HVA system or renovating downstairs, or renovate upstairs. It was always needing attention. Would I like to see that building stay? Yes. But can we afford it? And that's the question. I think we have a committee now looking at it, looking at what the expenses in order to keep it, to bring it up to standard. But I do know, I travel across the country, I travel across the state and look at other city halls, and I see cities renovating them, using grant money to bring in energy grants, bring in historic grants and that. So maybe there is an opportunity to get enough grants out there to bring it to a standard. But, it's an important building to the city. I'd hate to see it go idle, but I guess we have to look at what the costs are and what the alternatives are, because, we can only afford what we can afford. And I think we're taking it the right approach right now, and that is, let's see what it's going to cost and look at the alternatives. So at least we're taking a proactive approach and doing a planning part of it, doing some planning with it.
Dean?
Thank you. I'm a planner. I've always been a planner in the private sector before I execute. We need a comprehensive plan before we allocate any funds to pay for the repairs. A comprehensive plan will entail whether we reuse the old City Hall or we look at a long-term bonding to build a new City Hall. That comprehensive plan has yet to come before the council. So for me, I need that kind of plan in order to make a decision. Thank you.
Rosemary?
Right now, the alternative City Hall is working well, and we're going to be there for a number of years. We don't actually know what our city's, the complexities of our city 4 or 5 years from now. And this is the time to plan carefully, and we are doing that. There is a study and led by our mayor who has digs deeply into issues, and I trust that the best thing will be done for our city.
Nick?
I'm working on the committee right now to look at what we're going to do with City Hall, and I gotta be honest, I love where we are. I think being on Boulder Drive is amazing. It's one floor, very convenient for people who come in and out, for people who work there too. It's just a great place to be. That being said, I'd love to see something on Main Street, whether it's coming back as City Hall or if it's more like a Faneuil Hall type place. But I think something does need to be at the head of our Main Street. Yeah, thank you.
Steve?
Thank you. For me, it's a two-part question. The first part has to do with the last 20 or 30 years and the amount of money that we've wasted in that building doing patchwork. If we're going to do something with the building, it needs to be complete and it needs to be thorough. It needs to have handicapped access, it needs to have new boilers, it needs new windows, it needs a new roof, it needs all of those things. So how do we determine whether we want to go back to 718 Main Street or stay where we are on Boulder Drive or build something new? It's called cost analysis. Okay? We need to sit down, figure out what the numbers are. If the numbers are close and you want to spend a little bit more because people think it has historical value and want to be on Main Street, I could probably go along with that. But if the numbers are skewed and they're way off, I don't see any sense in spending a heck of a lot more money to simply have that building be on Main Street. We need to have the committee come up with numbers, make a decision, and move forward. We cannot waste any more time putting money into buildings that just don't give us a return. Thank you.
Dave?
Thank you, Mr. President. We do have a committee made up of people from various backgrounds, and I'll be waiting for that committee report when that comes out. I'll be anxiously awaiting that report when it comes out. And some of the people that are working on that have worked with old buildings and they've converted it to new buildings. We're at Boulder Drive right now, and that seems to work in some ways, but the Boulder Drive office needs a lot of work. One of the great things about City Hall was, as a counselor, that if you had a meeting at 7:30 in the council chambers and another meeting at 7 o'clock at the Veterans Room, and you could just go from one room to another, and you can catch all these meetings, and you can gather this information. You can't do that now. The meetings are held at council meetings at Memorial Middle School, and you've got some down at the conference center down on Boulder Drive. So it's not very comfortable to have meetings, and that has to be fixed from down on Boulder Drive.
Marcus?
I like where City Hall is. I think it's more modern, it's more of an office environment, and I ask myself, we have the ability in 2019 to take a large-scale project or projects on once the fire station and the new high school are paid off. Until that time, we're going to have to play it year by year. But in 2019, I ask myself, what is more of a priority for the taxpayers of Fitchburg? Is it a brand-new building in one location that serves one function? Or should we be addressing that debt structure, breathing room, on the plethora of items we have in this city right now that deserve capital infrastructure attention? So I'll let the subcommittee work it out for now, but my own personal opinion is I like where City Hall is right now. I think it's working, it's more modernized, and we don't own it. So the repairs and the structural issues are borne by the redevelopment authority. I think maybe we should look at all of the equipment items we have that are deficient and focus on those with such a big debt structure breathing room. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. I now ask Dr. Weiser to ask Jeff Bean the fifth question of the evening, followed by responses.
Thank you. The city has recently entered into negotiations with the Cordish Company as a surrounding community dealing with the proposed casino development in Leominster. What impact do you foresee these proposed development having on the city, and how can Fitchburg try and capitalize on that economic development?
Well, the concerns we have, and that's why we brought that up, is that by having a casino nearby, there's the social impact of people gambling their money away, or having losing their resources in that. There's also the issue of traffic concerns from the city of Fitchburg and other economic impacts to the city that we have to address. So the reason we wanted to go into that negotiations is to be able to have a seat at the table. I think it's important that the surrounding communities have a seat at the table so that we can bring our concerns and make sure that if and when that casino goes through, that Fitchburg is heard and that they have the resources necessary to deal with some of the issues we bring. And I think that's why we hired the attorney, and hopefully we'll work that out, if that happens. Am I for the casino? Am I for the casino? I still have reservations, but it's not in our court. It's in Leominster. But I think that we should be prepared. So if it does come, that any mitigating factors that we're prepared to deal with them.
Dean?
Thank you. To answer your question, I don't feel that there's going to be a lot of impact on the city because this proposal is occurring in the city of Leominster. The bordering community to that is Lunenburg, which is closer to the proposal than we are. One impact that I wish and I hope that we will encounter is the economic growth for our business establishments. If people come to the casino and visit our eateries and hotel, we would benefit from that. As for negative impacts, I hope they all stay in Leominster.
Rosemary?
I'm not against gambling. I'm against the abuse of the gambling. I do believe that there will be a significant impact to the citizens of Fitchburg because we'll be going there. People will be going there. So maybe we'll end up with a billboard that warns about the excesses of gambling with money that should be going towards your family.
Nick?
I'm not for or against a casino coming into or near our city. I will say that Fitchburg could stand to see a lot of negative effects from this, whether it be social impacts or impacts to our infrastructure or to our public safety. I am working as the council's liaison to Panone, Devereaux, Lobson West, who's the law firm we are working with for these negotiations, and I just want to see that if this does happen, if this does go through, Fitchburg does stand to gain something, and I'd like to see it be meaningful because, again, I think we stand to see a lot of negative impacts.
Steve?
Thank you. I think the impact is going to be small, but I think we need to optimize that. If we can get people coming from southern New Hampshire and other parts traveling through Fitchburg to go to the casino, if we can get them to stop and have lunch, if we can get them to buy their gas, if we can get them to stay overnight at our hotel, all of those things will be helpful, but I don't think it's going to be a major impact. As an abutter, though, to a community that is considering putting a casino in, we do have the right to ask them to do certain things and to negotiate that, and that's why we hired an attorney to do that for the city of Fitchburg. I think those things have to deal with education, so that if there are people who have troubles and families that have troubles with addiction to gambling, they have places to address it. I think we need to find out if our police and fire departments have to respond to things that are related to the casino, and there's costs associated with that, or there's overtime associated with that. Is there a payback to do that, so that Fitchburg gets covered, so that we don't have costs that are associated with having the casino in the area? Thank you.
Dave?
We do have, part of it is that we have to have a list of conditions on what we want to see there. It doesn't mean we're going to get them, but it's just like if you were to go to the Board of Appeals, and the Board of Appeals or planning on a smaller scale tells you, we want you to do this, this, this. There's no reason why we can't do that. Right now, our City Solicitor, John Barrett's looking at different things that will maybe help Fitchburg get something, but I agree with Councilor Hay that whatever we may get for them may be minimal.
Marcus?
I wholeheartedly support the casino. I believe it's going to be a positive impact for the region, North Central Massachusetts, in terms of jobs and economic development. I just would hope, because we've read in the papers a lot about Suffolk Downs and the casino issues in Boston, that the neighboring cities and towns, and in this case Fitchburg is one of them, hopefully in the negotiations we're not demanding too much of the Cordish company. we have to be reasonable, we have to be pragmatic and understand that Cordish and Leominster are willing to work with us. We don't want to push the envelope in terms of what we're going to ask for, like other cities and towns have done in other regions of Massachusetts. So I don't see us getting a major benefit directly from it, but I do see some benefits, long-term in terms of economic development and job creation. But again, let's not push the envelope. Let's be a willing partner and ensure that this does get done in our region.
Yeah. Kevin, last comment.
Well, I wish we were Leominster in terms of their business growth, and I think that's a topic that we should be more discussing. And I agree that our city will see additional revenues from the casino in reference to hotel stays, visiting the art galleries around town, and such things as that. But what I would really like to talk about is the tax rate in Fitchburg. I would really like to see, right now our business would collect in revenues are like 18% of the total revenues for the city. And, right now it's I believe $25 per thousand. In Leominster, $17 per thousand. I think that's where it's time to make a move right now as the city council to vote our tax rate down. At least let's start with the business. Let's compete with compete with Leominster. They're our neighboring city. We need to compete. We can't compete at $25 per thousand. When Leominster has better access already to major highways, and they have a $17 per thousand tax rate for their businesses. Right now is the time to make a move. I did the math, and it's just, where we sit right now with only 18% of the tax revenue from the city comes from businesses, it's time to make a move, a serious move. Someone mentioned earlier that we have to operate the city like a business, and that's what we need to do. We really need to stop making some bold choices and some votes.
Okay.
We need to bring businesses in.
It's time. Okay. Let's give them all a round of applause for those questions. Good job, everybody. We're now going to have each candidate give a 1 minute, up to 1 minute closing statement. We started the questioning on the left side with Steve. We're going to start the closing statements on the right side with Nick, and we'll call on each one of you, and that will conclude the debate, and then we can get home and watch the Red Sox and Cardinals. How's that? So, Nick, you want us to watch a game or don't you? So.
Absolutely.
No, go ahead.
My name is Nick Carboni. I don't have, I love Fitchburg, and I love working for Fitchburg, and I promise to continue doing that either as councilor at large or if I'm not elected. I still plan on doing that for Fitchburg. Down here, I brought a bunch of my cards, so please email me or call me. Come grab one of these after. I'd love to talk to you, and I'm a lawyer, but I'll do this pro bono. I won't bill you. So yeah, come grab one, and lastly, go Sox.
Next person, Rosemary Reynolds, candidate for Councilor at Large, current
Yes,
councilor.
I'd like to ask for your vote as Councilor at Large to continue giving back to the community for all the wonderful things that I've received. I think the people come first. The government serves the people. The economy serves the people. The 14.5% pay raise was given to a woman who's dedicated to our veterans, who gives timeless effort. It translated into a $7,000 increase. She came in at a very low, unjust wage, and we only made things right. So I think we have a convening of the stars with our beautiful state university, our wonderful Wolf resort coming. I say go with all the talent and energy that we have to make Fitchburg splendid. Thank you.
Thank you. Dean Tran.
Thank you. Thank you to everyone for participating in tonight's debate. I've always let my record and accomplishments speak for my candidacy. In this term, I've continued to support initiatives and programs for our children, seniors, and veterans. I propose changes to our code book to support equality for women. I helped craft a marijuana moratorium to protect the city and fulfill our obligations to the referendum. I proposed the creation of an economic development position to help the city generate revenue from new growth. I also proposed a limit to property tax increase This will help extend our tax levy ceiling, provide relief to the homeowners, and coupled with economic growth, the city will be in a good financial health. When the city achieves good financial health, everything will fall into place. We'll be able to provide public safety by adding more patrol officers to the streets, better maintenance of our streets, roads, and buildings, and a better educational system. I've always put the city first and foremost. I need your votes to change the perception of and image of our city from an old, rundown mill city to a city one wishes to live, work, and raise a family. I'm Dean Tran, Council at Large. Also visit me at deantran.com. Thank you.
Thanks, Dean. Jeff?
Thank you, Mr. President. You know, it was 30 years ago that I was over at the McKay School that I made my first appearance running for Ward 4 councilor. I got to tell you, I'm excited and enthused today as a councilor at large as I was 30 years ago. You don't lose that. The difference is I have a lot more experience and a lot more knowledge of how things work and how things operate. So I think I add value to the council with that. I also have an opportunity to travel a lot in my job and work with mayors and cities. And I see things, and as I was talking to Representative Di Natale, I see things in other cities say, why can't we do it here? So what I try and do is bring new ideas to Fitchburg that I see in other cities and that, and also look at things that differently. Just because we did it this way over and over again doesn't mean we have to continue to do that. And I think looking at new ideas and seeing looking in a different way can get different results. I do want to say, Mr. President, I am so impressed with the Ward Council presentations tonight. It got me excited to see the young blood and new people that hadn't been involved in politics. I mean, we're all, mostly here, all been elected. They hadn't. I want to say congratulations to all of them, and they did a great job. Thank you.
Thanks, Jeff. Good job. Kevin?
I would like to thank the university, the Sentinel and Enterprise, and FATV, and for those who came to the hall tonight, you know, I'd like to thank you, and for those watching on FATV. You know, it's important to the democratic process. You know, I'm running for city council at large. I'm asking for your vote. I decided to run because I feel that our citizens are getting shortchanged as our city government continues to burden our citizens with higher taxes, higher fees, and less services. I would like to, you know, discuss my proposals in reference to business. As I mentioned, I feel that it is time for Fitchburg to make a move. You know, we need to operate as a business, and at the present moment where our business sector is so small, you know, the math comes down to a revenue shortfall of $2.1 million, which can be secured with the free cash at the moment. And with an economic developer that, you know, others want to bring in, I think that's a great idea, but we need to give them the tools to work with. We can have 10 economic development specialists and economic majors, and, you know, and nothing will get done.
Time?
We need to give them the tools. And thank you again. And
Good. Marcus?
The reason I am running is simple. I possess political fortitude, analytical skills, and an objective, all characteristics I have brought to the City Council, characteristics that are needed now more than ever. My continued pledge to my bosses, the taxpayers of Fitchburg, is to be accessible to them, hold myself accountable to decisions that I make, and provide continued scrutiny over the effectiveness of how their tax dollars are utilized. I let the financial facts serve as my guide, and I do not make decisions based on what wins me the most points within City Hall. With your continued support, I look forward to being your advocate. Please cast one of your 5 votes for me, Marcus Di Natale, on November 5th. I will be second on the ballot. Thank you very much.
Thank you. David?
Thank you, Mr. President. Sentinel and Enterprise, FATV, for helping out this evening. In case you don't know me, I'm a Fitchburg guy. Even if our family moved around in Fitchburg, we stayed in Fitchburg. From Princeton Road in West Fitchburg to Pacific Street in North Fitchburg to Seneca Street on the south side. My experience includes 5 years on the school committee, 8 years on the council, where I currently serve as a Ward 1 councilor and vice president to the council. I also serve on the board of directors at FATV and the historic Crocker Field Restoration Committee. As a councilor, I've never missed a council vote, and I offer community meetings at the South Street Elementary School, 350 Water Street, Normandy Road, and Putnam Park. I promised to step down after 8 years with the intent of getting more people involved. I'm happy to say that we have two very good people going for that seat. I am deliberate and I am thoughtful about any petition that is before me. I'm Dave Clark. I'm number 7 on the ballot, and I don't place any signs on public property. I would greatly appreciate your consideration in Tuesday's election. Thank you.
And the last statement, Steve.
I'm Stephen Hay, candidate for re-election as Councilor at Large on your Fitchburg City Council. I'm asking for your vote on Tuesday, November 5th. I seek re-election as a Councilor at Large because I believe we need strong, thoughtful leadership in response to the issues facing Fitchburg. I am an advocate for public safety and education. We need to ensure that our neighborhoods are safe and that every child has an opportunity to receive the best education available. We need to make sure that our public safety personnel and educators have the tools necessary to do their jobs. I believe through my experience, I have developed a knowledge of city government that will help me function as an effective Councilor at Large. Please vote Stephen Hay, Councilor at Large, on Tuesday, November 5th. My 2 promises to you, the residents of Fitchburg: hard work and honesty. Thank you.
That concludes our municipal debates for 2013. Let's give them another round of applause and wish them the best of luck in the election. Once again, I'd like to thank all the candidates, the at-large candidates, the ward candidates, the Sentinel and Enterprise. Be sure to look at it tomorrow morning. The FATV for broadcasting and recording the event tonight. Don't forget to vote Tuesday, November 5th. Have a good night and let the Red Sox win. Thank you.